The War Council chamber aboard the orbital station Prometheus hung in tense silence. Ambassador Marcus Reed sat at the curved table, his weathered hands folded as he stared at the holographic display showing red zones spreading across the galaxy map like a deadly infection. Round him, representatives from a dozen alien species shifted uncomfortably in their seats, their various forms of breathing creating an orchestra of nervous sounds. "The Void Swarm has consumed another system," announced Councillor Vexthara, her scaled reptilian features grim. "The Altair colony's 3 billion souls gone in 18 hours. Reed's jaw tightened. He'd seen the footage. The swarm didn't just destroy worlds. It stripped them bare, leaving nothing but lifeless rock, floating in space. No survivors, no ruins, nothing. That makes 15 systems into months," rumbled Councillor Thorgrim, his bear-like alien form towering even while seated. "At this rate, they'll reach the core worlds within a year." The Galactic Council had been proud once, 23-member species, each bringing their own strengths to the Alliance. The Vextharians with their advanced shielding technology, the Altarians and their incredible computational abilities, the Thorgs with their industrial might, and humanity the newcomers who joined just 50 years ago, bringing their strange knack for warfare and adaptation. But 50 years wasn't long enough to forget. Reed could see it in their eyes. The way they looked at him, the same mixture of fear and disgust they'd worn after Kepler Station. "We need options," Vexthara continued, her voice carefully neutral. "The swarm's advanced formations are unlike anything we've encountered. They adapt to our weapons, learn from our tactics. Traditional warfare has proven insufficient." Reed almost smiled at that. Insufficient. Such a polite way to say their fleets were being slaughtered. The memory hit him like it always did, sudden and sharp as a blade. Kepler Station. Humanity's first real colony beyond Earth's solar system. He'd been there as a young diplomatic attaché, part of the cultural exchange program. The attack had come without warning during the Harvest Festival, when human and alien families celebrated together under the artificial stars of the biodome. The Zephyrian Collective had struck fast and brutal. Their philosophy was simple. Humans were a contamination, a violent species that would crop the peaceful galaxy. Better to remove them before they could spread their warlike nature to other worlds. Reed remembered the screams, the way the energy weapons had carved through the station's hull like tissue paper. Children, human and alien alike, running through corridors as atmosphere vented into space. The Zephyrians had been methodical, systematic. They'd hunted down every human, every alien who'd tried to help them. Ambassador Reed. Vexthara's voice pulled him back to the present. We need to discuss humanity's role in the coming conflict." The chamber fell silent. This was the moment they'd all been building toward. Reed could feel the weight of their expectations, their desperate hope mixed with deep unease. "You want us to fight," Reed said quietly. "It wasn't a question. Your species has certain capabilities," Thorgrim said carefully. "The Battle of Proxima demonstrated humanity's tactical innovation. The Siege of New Geneva showed your ability to adapt under pressure. The Kepler Station massacre showed our ability to survive genocide." Reed interrupted, his voice cold. "Let's not dance around it. Counselor, you need us because we're good at killing." The alien representatives exchanged glances. Vexthar leaned forward, her reptilian features earnest. "Ambassador, we understand there are complications in our shared history. But the Void Swarm threatens all life in the galaxy, surely." "Complications," Reed's voice rose slightly. "Counselor, your predecessor voted to quarantine humanity. After Kepler, call us inherently violent and unsuitable for galactic civilization." The Galactic Council sat and debated for 3 months while the Zephyrians hunted down every human colony ship they could find. The silence stretched uncomfortable. Finally, Councillor Urindai spoke, her crystalline form chiming softly. The Zephyrians were extreme in their methods. They acted without council approval and faced no consequences. Reed replied. They were given a formal censure and asked to pay reparations. Very civilized, very peaceful through the chambers. Viewport. Reed could see Earth's moon in the distance, its surface now bristling with defensive installations. Humanity had learned the galaxy's lesson well: trust no one, depend on no one, and always be ready to fight. The Void Swarm is different, Vexthar insisted. They don't negotiate. They don't take prisoners. They simply consume. If we don't stop them, you'll all die. Reed finished. I understand the stakes. Counselor, the question is, are you prepared to accept what human involvement really means? The aliens looked at each other nervously. They wanted humanity's help, but they also wanted to maintain their comfortable illusions about the nature of war. Reed knew that wouldn't last long. Outside the viewport, the first human battle fleet was already assembling, their black holes bristling with weapons that made even humanity's allies nervous. The galaxy was about to remember why it had feared humans in the first place. Admiral Sarah Chen stepped into the war room with the measured pace of someone who'd walked through hell and lived to tell about it. The scar running from her left temple to her jaw caught the harsh lighting, a permanent reminder of Kepler Station's final moments when shrapnel had nearly taken her head off. She was 8 years old then. Now, at 43, she commanded humanity's most advanced fleet. The assembled alien dignitaries fell silent as she approached the central holotable, where Ambassador Reed had been diplomatic. Chen was pure military precision. Her uniform bore no decorations. No medals, just a rank insignia and a small patch showing Earth's blue marble against the black. Of space, counselors, she said, her voice carrying the flat tone of someone who'd run out of patience for politics years ago. She activated her personal data pad, and the holotable erupted with detailed projections of the Void Swarm's advanced patterns. While you've been debating, I've been analyzing, Chen continued, manipulating the display to show attack vectors and consumption rates. The swarm moves in perfect mathematical progression. They don't waste energy on unnecessary destruction. Every world they consume increases their biomass by exactly 37%. Every ship they destroy gets broken down and incorporated into their fleet structure. Councillor Vexthar shifted uncomfortably. Admiral, we appreciate the data, but surely we should discuss. There's nothing to discuss. Chen cut her off. The swarm will reach Proxima Centauri in 47 days, the Vega colonies in 62 days, the Centaurian home worlds in 94 days. After that, they'll have enough resources to split into multiple attack formations. She zoomed in on specific sectors, highlighting choke points and strategic positions. Your fleets have been engaging them head-on. Standard battle formations, predictable tactics. That's why you're losing. The swarm adapts faster than you can innovate. General Thorgrim leaned forward, his massive frame casting shadows across the table. Our military strategists have centuries of experience fighting other civilized species. Chen interrupted again. The swarm isn't civilized. It's a predator. And you've been acting like prey. The room temperature seemed to drop several degrees. Chen's cold assessment cut through their careful diplomatic language like a blade through silk. She brought up combat footage from the last major engagement, the Battle of Rigel Prime. Watch this, she said, her finger tracing the movement of ships on the display. Your admiral orders a defensive screen. Standard textbook maneuver. The swarm responds by sacrificing their forward elements to test your firepower. Then they adapt. The footage showed exactly what Chen described. The alien Fleet had performed beautifully by conventional standards dive formations, coordinated fire, proper support protocols. The swarm had simply absorbed the punishment, learned from it, and then overwhelmed them with a counterattack that exploited every weakness they'd observed. 17,000 casualties. Chen said quietly, "Because your commander fought by the rules." Councillor Urindi's crystalline form chimed with agitation. "Admiral, surely you're not suggesting we abandon all tactical doctrine. I'm suggesting you let us handle this our way." Chen replied. She manipulated the display again, showing human fleet formations that looked chaotic compared to the precise alien arrangements. "Human tactics aren't pretty. We don't fight fair. We don't follow your rules of engagement. What exactly are you proposing?" Vexthar asked. Though her tone suggested she wasn't sure she wanted to know, Chen smiled. But there was no warmth in it. Total operational command. No oversight committees. No political interference. No rules of engagement beyond what we determine is necessary. The alien representatives exchanged worried glances. General Thorgrim spoke carefully. "Admiral, while we respect humanity's unconventional approach, surely some level of coordination." "Coordination," Chen laughed. But the sound was sharp as breaking glass. "Counselor, your coordination got the Altair colonies consumed. Your careful planning lost you the Rigel fleet. Your civilized approach to warfare is why we're having this conversation instead of celebrating victory." She brought up another display, this one showing human ship designs. And like the sleek, elegant vessels favored by other species, human ships looked brutal and functional, angular hulls bristling with weapons, armor plating that could ram through asteroid fields, and engines that could push them far beyond safe. Operational limits. The UNSC Retribution took down a swarm dreadnought last month. Chen continued. "Want to know how? We rammed it. Full speed. Maximum thrust. Right through their primary processing center. Lost 800 crew members. But we took out a ship that had destroyed 3 of your battle groups." The silence that followed was deafening. Chen could see the disgust in their eyes. The same look she'd seen on alien faces for decades. They wanted humanity's help, but they couldn't stomach humanity's methods. "This is what you're asking for," she said, her voice softer now, but no less intense. "You want us to save your galaxy, but you don't want to see how the meat gets made. You want the results without accepting the reality." Ambassador Reed had been quiet during the exchange. But now he leaned forward. The Admiral raises valid points. If humanity is to commit our forces, our people, our resources, we need absolute authority over military operations. That's unprecedented. Vexthara protested. "No single species has ever held such authority. No single species has ever faced extinction before." Chen shot back. "The swarm doesn't care about your precedents. They don't negotiate. They don't take prisoners. They consume everything." She stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars that were slowly being snuffed out across the galaxy. "I was there when Kepler burned. I watched children die because the galaxy decided humans were too violent to be trusted. Now you need that violence. You need our willingness to do what you can't." When she turned back to face them, her expression was harder than steel. "So decide, counselors. Do you want to save your people, or do you want to maintain your moral superiority while the swarm picks your bones clean?" The vote was unanimous, though Chen could see it cost them. Humanity would lead the fight against the Void Swarm. The galaxy had just traded its conscience for a chance at survival. The first sign that human warfare was different came when Admiral Chen ordered the evacuation of the Kepler 442 system. The star system had two rocky planets. both uninhabited but rich in minerals that 3 alien species had been quietly mining for decades. When the void swarm's advanced scouts appeared at the system's edge, the alien mining crews expected a standard, defensive deployment. Instead, they watched in horror as human engineers planted massive fusion charges throughout the asteroid belt and rigged the mining stations with enough explosives to crack a moon in half. This is madness. Counselor Vexthara transmitted from her flagship, watching the preparations unfold. Those resources could supply our war effort for years. General Maria Torres, commanding the human forces in the sector, didn't even look up from her tactical display. Resources don't matter if we're all dead. Counselor, the swarm wants this system. They can have it, along with a few surprises. The swarm arrived 3 days later in force hundreds of biomechanical ships that moved like a school of predatory fish. Their vessels looked grown rather than built, with organic curves and weapon ports that pulsed like beating hearts. The lead ships immediately began scanning the abandoned mining facilities, their biomechanical tendrils extending toward the mineral-rich asteroids. "They're taking the bait," Torres reported, her voice calm as ice. "All human vessels fall back to phase line Charlie. Maintain calm silence." The alien observers watched nervously as the human fleet retreated, seemingly abandoning the system without a fight. Counselor Thorgrim's voice crackled over the secure channel. "General, surely we should engage them before they can establish a foothold." "Negative," Torres cut him off. "Stick to the plan." For 6 hours, the swarm methodically consumed the system's resources. Their ships attached to asteroids like metallic parasites, breaking down rock and metal into raw materials. The larger vessels began spawning smaller craft, using the absorbed matter to grow new weapons and armor plating. That's when Torres gave the signal. The fusion charges detonated simultaneously across the asteroid belt, turning chunks of rock into high-velocity shrapnel that tore through the swarm vessels like paper. The mining stations exploded a split second later, their stored fuel and explosives creating secondary blasts that caught the enemy ships in overlapping kill zones. But Torres wasn't finished. As the surviving swarm vessels tried to regroup, human ships emerged from behind the system's gas giant where they'd been hiding in the planet's shadow. They came in fast and low, using the debris field as cover. "All units, weapons free," Torres commanded. "Target the survivors. No mercy." The human ships moved like wolves among sheep, where alien vessels fought with elegant formation flying and coordinated volleys. The humans attacked with brutal efficiency. They used the wreckage of destroyed swarm ships as improvised weapons, ramming debris into enemy hulls. When their missiles ran low, they used their ships themselves as projectiles. Captain Jake Morrison, commanding the destroyer Vengeful Spirit epitomized the human approach. When his ship's main guns were damaged, he ordered a ramming course straight into a swarm cruiser's reactor core. The explosion took out 3 enemy vessels and created a debris field that trapped a dozen more. Morrison's crew, Torres as her communications officer, 17 survivors. "General, they're being picked up now." Torres nodded grimly. "Inhuman warfare." Casualties weren't just numbers on a report, they were the price of victory. Morrison had traded his ship and most of his crew for a tactical advantage that would save thousands of lives down the line. The alien observers were appalled. Counselor Urine's crystalline form actually cracked from stress as she watched the aftermath. "General Torres, this is butchery. Your people fight like wild animals. We fight to win." Torres replied, watching as human salvage crews began stripping useful technology from the swarm wreckage. "The enemy adapts to conventional tactics, so we don't use conventional tactics. But the cost," Vexthara protested. "So many of your own people would have died anyway if we'd fought." Clean, Torres interrupted. The swarm doesn't take prisoners, Counselor. They don't negotiate. They consume. The only language they understand is violence, and we speak it fluently. The tactical display showed the results. Over 300 swarm vessels destroyed in exchange for 47 human ships lost. By any measure, it was a decisive victory. But the methods left their alien allies deeply uncomfortable. Dr. Elizabeth Hayes, the human xenobiologist attached to the fleet, provided the scientific analysis that made everyone even more uneasy. We recovered intact swarm biosamples from the wreckage, she reported to the Joint Command Staff. Their neural networks show clear adaptation patterns. They were already developing countermeasures to our conventional weapons. She brought up microscopic images of swarm tissue, but they can't adapt to pure kinetic destruction. A fusion bomb doesn't care about their armor evolution. A ship traveling at significant velocity doesn't slow down for adaptive shielding. So, you're saying, Councillor Thorgrim said slowly, that crude force is more effective than advanced technology. I'm saying the swarm expects us to fight smart. Hayes replied, so we fight stupid. We fight dirty. We fight in ways that don't make sense to their biological programming. General Torres stood and walked to the tactical display, highlighting the next system in the swarm's advance path. The Centauri sector is next, for inhabited worlds, 20 million civilians. The swarm will hit it in 15 days. She turned to face the alien representatives. I can save those worlds. But you're not going to like how I do it. I'm going to turn 3 gas giants into improvised weapons. I'm going to use solar flares as a delivery system for plasma warheads, and I'm going to sacrifice uninhabited systems to create kill zones that'll stop them cold. The silence stretched uncomfortably. Finally, Ambassador Reed spoke. The General is right. War isn't about fighting fair. It's about winning. The swarm doesn't care about your moral standards. They'll consume your worlds regardless of how civilized you think you are. Councillor Vexthor's reptilian features showed clear distress. But surely there must be limits. The only limit, Torres said coldly, is what works. You asked us to save the galaxy. You didn't ask us to do it gently. Vote to continue human operational command past, but barely. The galaxy was learning that survival sometimes required abandoning everything they thought they believed about civilized warfare. In the distance, more swarm fleets were gathering. And humanity was just getting started. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in their 1,000-year history. The Grand Chamber, usually filled with dignified debate and careful diplomacy, now buzzed with barely contained panic and rage. At the center of it all sat Admiral Sarah Chen, her expression as unreadable as carved stone. The holographic display above the chamber showed the Tarsus system, or what remained of it. Where once 3 beautiful worlds had orbited a golden star, now only debris fields and scarred planets remained. The 3rd world, New Avalon, was gone entirely. 17 billion souls, reduced to cosmic dust. You destroyed an entire world. Councillor Vexthor's voice shook with emotion. 17 billion civilians, children, families. How do you justify this? This genocide? Chen didn't flinch. I saved 3 star systems the swarm had infected. New Avalon's population. Within 72 hours, they would have converted every living being on that planet into bioweapons. Those bioweapons would have been used to assault the Kepler, Vega, and Centauri systems. She activated her personal display, showing tactical projections. Current population of those 3 systems, 41 billion. The math is simple, Counselor. 17 billion died to save 41 billion. General Thorgrim slammed his massive fist on the table, causing several smaller species to jump. Mathematics. You speak of lives as if they were cargo manifests. Because that's what war is, Chen replied coldly. Resource management on a galactic scale. The swarm understands this. They don't waste energy on sentiment or morality. They consume what they need to achieve their objectives. The footage of New Avalon's final moments played on the displays round the chamber. The human fleet had arrived to find the planet's cities dark, its communications silent. Long-range scans revealed the horrible truth: the swarm hadn't just conquered the world. They'd infected it. The population had been transformed into living factories, their bodies repurposed to create new swarm organisms. Dr. Elizabeth Hayes, the human xenobiologist, provided the clinical details that made even hardened military officers sick. The infection process takes approximately 18 hours. The swarm introduces biomechanical parasites that rewrite the host's genetic structure. They remain conscious throughout the transformation. She paused, her own composure cracking slightly. We detected millions of distress signals from the planet's surface, people begging for help, for rescue. But there was no saving them. The infection was too advanced. Chen had given the order with the same tone she might use to order coffee. All units, initiate cleansing Protocol 7. Total planetary sterilization. The weapons used weren't conventional. Human scientists had developed something they called Starfire bombs, fusion devices that burned at temperatures approaching stellar cores. When they detonated in New Avalon's atmosphere, they didn't just destroy the planet, they erased it. Breaking down matter at the molecular level, the infection died with the planet. Chen explained to the horrified council. No spores, no dormant parasites, no chance for the swarm to salvage anything useful from the corpses. But the aliens couldn't see past the moral horror of it all. Councillor Urindia's crystalline form was flickering with distress. There had to be another way, some method of purifying the infection. We tried. Dr. Hayes interrupted. Our biomedical team spent 6 months developing countermeasures. The swarm infection adapts faster than we can create cures. By the time we could develop an antidote, the infected population would have been weaponized and deployed against other worlds. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some species called for humanity's immediate removal from command. Others demanded investigations into human war crimes. The few, the ones who'd seen their own worlds consumed by the swarm, remained silent. Chen waited for the noise to die down before speaking again. "Let me tell you about the alternative," she said, her voice cutting through the chaos. The swarm would have used New Avalon's population to create a bioweapon capable of infecting entire star system. As simultaneously, instead of losing one world, we would have lost a dozen. Instead of 17 billion casualties, we'd be looking at 200 billion. She stood and walked to the chamber's great viewport, looking out at the stars. I've been fighting this war for 3 years now. I've watched the swarm consume 47 worlds. I've seen what they do to prisoners, to civilians, to children. And I've learned that there's only one language they understand. When she turned back to face the council, her eyes held the cold fire of someone who'd stared into the abyss and found it staring back. You came to us because we remember how to hate. Don't pretend surprise when we use it. The words hung in the air like a curse. Ambassador Reed, who'd been silent throughout the session, finally spoke. Admiral Chen is right. The swarm isn't bound by our moral constraints. They don't care about civilian casualties or rules of engagement. They care about one thing: consumption. He activated his own display, showing swarm attack patterns across the galaxy. Every world they take makes them stronger. Every population they infect becomes a weapon against us. The Admiral's decision was strategically sound. Strategically sound. Councillor Vexthar's voice rose to a shriek. She murdered an entire planet. She saved 3. Reed replied simply. And she did it knowing that people like you would call her a monster. She made the hard choice so you wouldn't have to. The debate continued for hours, but the outcome was inevitable. The galaxy needed humanity's ruthless efficiency. Even if they couldn't stomach the methods, the vote to continue human command passed by the narrowest margin in council history. As the session ended and the alien representatives filed out, many wouldn't meet Chen's eyes. They'd gotten what they wanted, victory against the swarm, but the price was their comfortable illusions about civilized warfare. Chen remained behind, staring at the tactical displays that showed swarm forces retreating from 3 systems. 41 billion people would go to sleep tonight in their own beds because 17 billion had died screaming in Starfire. Was it worth it? Dr. Hayes asked quietly. Chen was silent for a long moment. Ask me again when the war is over, she finally said, if there's anyone left to ask. Outside the viewport, human ships continued their patrol routes, carrying weapons that could crack planets and cruise who'd learned to sleep despite the nightmares. The galaxy was learning that monsters were sometimes necessary to fight monsters, and humanity was very good at being necessary. The final swarm hive ship died in the void between galaxies. It's biomechanical, hull cracking like an egg as human fusion torpedoes tore it apart from within. Admiral Sarah Chen watched from the bridge of the Retribution's edge as the last traces of the enemy disappeared into cosmic dust. After 4 years of war, the galaxy was finally safe. But victory felt hollow in the silence that followed. Casualty reports. Commander, Chen said quietly to her aide. Human losses totaled to 0.7 million military personnel. Commander Williams replied, his voice steady despite the numbers. 43 worlds partially or completely evacuated. 19 systems used as tactical sacrifice zones. Chen nodded. The numbers were burned into her memory anyway. Every life lost, every world abandoned, every impossible choice made in the name of galactic survival. The aliens would never understand the weight humanity carried now. 3 months later, the victory celebration on Galactic Council Station felt more like a funeral. The grand ceremony hall was filled with representatives from every surviving species, their colorful forms creating a rainbow of alien life. But Chen could see the fear in their eyes when they looked at her, the way they stepped back when human officers passed by. Councillor Vexthar gave the opening speech, her reptilian features carefully composed. Today, we celebrate not just victory, but the return of peace to our galaxy. The darkness has been lifted, and we can once again pursue the paths of harmony and cooperation that define civilized society. The applause was polite but restrained. Chen noticed how the alien representatives applauded the mentions of peace and cooperation, but fell silent whenever humanity's role in the war was acknowledged. When her turn came to speak, Chen kept it brief. The swarm is defeated. The galaxy is secure. Humanity's forces will be withdrawing to our own systems within the month. The silence that followed was deafening. Several council members looked relieved. Others confused. Councillor Thorgrim leaned forward. Admiral, surely you don't mean a complete withdrawal. I mean exactly that. Chen cut him off. You have your peace back, Councillor. You don't need us anymore. But even as she spoke, Chen could see the fear in their eyes. They wanted humanity gone. But they also wanted to know humanity would be there if another threat emerged. The contradiction would define their relationship for generations to come. After the ceremony, Ambassador Reed found Chen on the station's observation deck, staring out at the stars. The Council wants to discuss ongoing security arrangements, he said. Of course they do, Chen replied without turning round. They want us close enough to call if something goes wrong, but far enough away that they can pretend we don't exist. Reed joined her at the viewport. They're scared of us now. more scared than they ever were of the swarm. "Good," Chen said. "Fear is honest. All those years of pretending we were just another member species. That our methods were just slightly unconventional. Now, they know what we really are." The memorial service for human war dead was held on Luna Station, orbiting Earth's moon. Unlike the grand alien ceremony, this was simple and private. No cameras, no speeches about glorious victory. Just the names of the dead, carved into black stone that reflected the stars. Chen stood before the memorial wall, her dress uniform bearing the weight of 4 years of impossible decisions. The names seemed to go on forever. Morrison, Patterson, Liu, Rodriguez, thousands of them, each representing someone who died so the galaxy could live. But it was the older section of the memorial that drew her attention, the names from Kepler Station, carved 50 years ago when humanity first learned what the galaxy thought of them. Her parents' names were there, along with her little brother Tommy, who'd been 6 when the Zephyrians came. They wanted to forget what war really means. She said quietly to the wall of names. They wanted to believe that civilization meant the absence of violence, not the willingness to use it when necessary. She touched her father's name, remembering his last transmission before Kepler Station's communications went dark. He'd been trying to evacuate the civilian sections when the Zephyrians breached the hole. "We made sure the galaxy will never forget what humans are willing to do to survive," she continued. "The price we'll pay, the choices we'll make, the darkness we'll embrace if it means protecting what matters." Behind her, she heard footsteps. Dr. Hayes approached, carrying a small data pad. "The xenobiology reports are ready for a submission to the Council archives," she said. "Complete analysis of swarm biology, their infection methods, countermeasures we developed." Chen took the pad without looking at it. "They'll study it, file it away, and pray they never need to use it until the next time something comes out of the dark that their pretty speeches can't stop. And then they'll call us again." "He's observed, and we'll answer," Chen replied. "Not because we like them, or because we've forgiven them for Kepler, but because someone has to be willing to do the ugly work." She turned from the memorial, her reflection ghosting across the black stone. "Set course for the Sol system, Doctor. It's time to go home." The human fleet that returned to Earth was smaller than the one that had left, but harder. Battle-scarred ships with hull plating that told stories of ramming attacks and point-blank firefights. Crews who'd learned to sleep through nightmares and wake up ready to fight again. In the months that followed, alien diplomats would occasionally visit Earth, always with carefully worded requests for consultation on security matters. They never directly asked for military assistance, but the meaning was clear. The galaxy slept easier knowing humanity was watching the dark spaces between the stars. Chen established her headquarters on Luna Station, in full view of the memorial wall. Her staff learned not to comment on the hours she spent there, reading names and remembering faces. The price of being the galaxy's guardian was carried in silence. Years later, when the first reports came in of strange signals from the void between galaxies, the alien councils would debate for months before sending their carefully worded messages to Earth. They'd couch their requests in diplomatic language, talking about mutual cooperation and shared security interests. But Chen would read between the lines, just as she always had. Something was coming, something that required humanity's particular talents, and despite everything, the fear, the isolation, the weight of being both savior and monster humanity would answer the call, because someone had to be willing to stand in the dark, to make the hard choices, to carry the burden of survival. That's what it meant to be human in a galaxy that wanted peace but needed warriors. They were the guardians no one wanted but everyone needed, carrying the darkness so others could live in the light. The stars watched in silence, waiting for the next threat to emerge from the infinite black, and humanity watched back, ready to do whatever was necessary to keep the galaxy safe from the monsters that lurked beyond the edge of space, even if it meant becoming monsters themselves.